Hello, everyone. Welcome back to tarotnitalks. Today we have a special guest. We have Aalaa with us. Did I get that right? Okay. She is a fellow tarot reader, and she and I are it's just gonna be the two of us this week, and we're just going to discuss all things tarot, talk about how we started, what it means to us, how it helps us, and answer some questions that you guys sent in. So, hi, Aalaa, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Should I refer to you as like Nino? Is that?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, okay.
Nino is my pet name. You can refer to me as Nino, no worries. So, Aalaa, do you want to start us off by telling us a little bit about what tarot means to you and how it started for you? I'm more curious to know someone else's journey.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I was super into astrology as a kid, right? So when I was around like 13, 14, so I was like getting like really into it. Like, I found out, there's not just the sun sign, like the
Oh, for
developing
sure.
stages.
Yeah.
And then when I was around, so I knew that tarot existed. Like I had watched like those pick a card readings on YouTube, right?
Yeah, same.
But I never really felt like
Drawn.
personally like called towards it until I was around like 16 or 17, and I entered a bookshop and I saw this deck. And you know what? I just thought that I should have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really have like a like this learning already of tarot. Like I didn't exactly like know what it was about before that. Like I couldn't really tell you what the major arcana was, etc.
Same.
But I just kind of figured it out like after I picked up my first deck and I started reading for fun for like random people. Like I would ask my friends, like ask me a question, and that's how it started basically.
I think it's pretty similar to my story. Even for me, like I would like watch picker cards a lot, but I never thought it would be. I always thought I would be like the observer, never like the person who does it. So it was like a very spur of the moment thing. I was like browsing Amazon and I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just see what it's all about. Yeah, why not? Like let's see what comes out of it, and like and I learned like I didn't know they were even called the major arcana or minor arcana when I got them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I hope YouTube can help me with this because I don't know how this works.
Also, like a plus side was that the deck I got was like super pretty, so I could just like put it around.
What was your first deck?
This is.
Oh wow! Oh, the tattoo tarot. I've seen that one.
Yeah, so I don't know, I just felt like even if I don't learn how to use it, it's like it's pretty enough to just sit around.
Sure. That's so true. So when you got your first deck, like were you already like very spiritual beforehand or inclined towards it?
Yeah, I definitely like was, because I was born into like a very like traditional like Muslim family, right?
Yeah.
But it's like aside from like being super conservative, it's like my grandfather, like my maternal grandfather, was like really really spiritual, in the sense that what like jinn are, right?
Yeah.
So he used to basically like deal with them and like help people like cleanse themselves of like outer energies and things like that. So a lot of those things like really like passed down to us, like from my mom as well. Like just it was just like really simple things, like just here, like there's just this belief here that if you leave your food uncovered, then like some like devil is eating it.
Oh, for sure.
But basically like it pollutes your food, right? So things of that nature, I was like super into it, and thankfully I was never put in a situation where I felt that I was like spiritually corrupted or anything like that, like I was never like coming from like the opposite end to the good end.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's usually the people who have that running in their family that are like, okay, I'm going to branch out and like find my own medium to develop this further. So is it just tarot for you, or is it also the whole jazz, like witchcraft, spells, crystals, and all that stuff?
I'm not like super into crystals, but I do like I have like one rose quartz, and I just have it because I just love the energy of like
Yeah.
a rose quartz, you
Yeah.
know. It's very small, but sometimes I use it for like manifestation and things of that nature.
Oh, for sure.
Personally, I'm not super into like witchcraft, but like I do know about it. Like I've read a lot on it, but personally, I don't align myself with that. What about you?
For me, I as well was really religious. I grew up in a religious household. It wasn't very conservative, but it was like a very balanced household where we would, be really
Yeah.
religious and party just as hard at the same time. But I
Yeah,
basically like
yeah,
grew
yeah.
up with these two extremes and
Yeah.
somehow found a way to merge them and make like a like a
Yeah.
be in a world where both of them can coexist. And when it came to
Yeah.
spirituality, that was also part of our religion. Like spiritual practices were a part of our religion, meditation and stuff like
100%,
that.
yeah.
Like it was,
Hmm.
yeah, it had been taught to us, that meditation is good for you. Meditation is kind of like a way to connect with God, is basically what I was taught. And so I've been meditating since
Yeah.
I was pretty young. But yeah,
Yeah.
then when I grew up and I learned about, crystals are a thing and tarot is a thing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like for me, it ended until astrology, and then I was like, okay, there's all these other things we can do, and then there's bibliomancy, and there's just so many mediums. It's like an endless and
Yeah.
a world with so
Yeah.
much going on. So I think
100%, yeah.
that's what it means to me. So what's like, this is one of the most important things for me, I feel, when it comes to being a tarot reader, is there's a difference between when you do it commercially, like just for money, when you do it at parties
Yeah.
and events, which is great, like if that's your thing. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for me, it's more about like helping people rather than doing it
Yeah.
like for money. Like the money is just for energy exchange, because there needs to be some sort of give and take so that that
Yeah.
person's energy is not in debt to us. But for me, the most important part of like being a tarot reader, not commercial purposes, is the spiritual hygiene that you have to keep up with, because people don't realize that like these cards are literally a medium to and to talking to a world that's not in the
100%.
physical plane. Tarot cards are literally marketed as playing cards, so it's like
Yeah.
it's not taken as seriously as it should, and it's like
Yeah.
just as bad as like a Ouija board. Even a Ouija board like is sold as a party
100%.
game, but it's
Yeah.
real. Like you can actually unlock some
Exactly.
bad stuff there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't, like when they want to get into tarot, they treat it as like a game and like a fun recreational activity,
Yeah.
which is fine, but it's like I feel like you should practice some sort of spiritual hygiene around it, just to keep yourself safe and like vibrating at your level and attracting spirit that vibrates at the same level and not lower or not something weird. So like
Yeah.
what are your
Yeah.
that was such a roundabout way of asking you, what are your your like spiritual hygiene practices that you maintain?
I mean, for me personally, I do like identify with like my religion, right? There's a thing that like Muslims do for like keeping like bad energies away and like bad spirits away and things of that nature, which is like doing zikr. And zikr is just like remembering God, right? So there's like a
Yeah.
few things you say, and just to like remember God and like ask for, His refuge, etc., etc. So you do it
Yeah.
like in the morning, like when you first wake up, and then you do it like around like sunset time, So I
Okay,
feel
okay.
like mainly like that's what I do. Aside from that, I really like I think that spiritual hygiene and actual like bodily hygiene are like really intertwined. So I feel like
Yeah. We spoke
like
about that
on
in our
some days
previous
when you're
podcast. Yeah.
yeah yeah, like I I really feel like like sometimes when you're having a super bad day, you'll honestly just like take a shower and it will get better, like a really like nice
It
warm
will.
shower. So I feel like maintaining like cleanliness generally,
Oh,
like
for sure.
especially in your like your nails and your hair, like really helps you like keep clean. And also changing your bed sheets. Like I know like that sounds like so mundane, but I really
No,
feel
but
like
it's true.
if you like right before sleeping, if you like, you know, I don't know the English word for it, but like you jar your bed sheets, you know, like you dust them
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah. I know what
Like
you
I
mean.
feel
Yeah,
like,
dust it off.
yeah, I feel like that honestly like helps you on another level. Like in like my religion, it's like if you do that, you're actually like, you know, throwing away any jinns that are on your bed. But yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. We also equate that like cleanliness to, you know, being in like the more clean your space is, the more God is going to want to come in and like visit your home. Like that's what we believe
yeah,
in that way
yeah,
as well. That like if your house is
yeah.
unclean, no one clean is gonna want to come in to it. And
100%. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're just gonna like fester more like sadness and negativity. This is so great that I'm like talking to you, because so far the only readers that I've spoken to have all been the same religion as me. So it's like
Oh,
nice to
okay.
draw parallels with like people with other
Yeah,
beliefs, but like
yeah.
I feel like they all are the same. At the end of the day, God is one. We
They
just like
are,
give
they
them
are.
different
Yeah,
names.
exactly.
It's interesting. I'm so glad that you're like doing the same thing that I'm doing, but you're coming from like a perspective of a religion that's
Yeah.
different from mine. I get to learn a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should look at a few questions as well. We put up a sticker on our Instagram. It's Taroni, TAROTNI. I'll leave the link below. Okay, so this one says, this one's very generic. I don't think it has anything to do with tarot, but it's really interesting because we get a lot of queries like this. So this one says, can believing and staying positive and praying bring someone back? And usually I wouldn't entertain this question, but
Yeah.
we get a lot of questions about bringing people back. And I think you and I will share the same outlook on this. I just know it, even though we've
Yeah,
never discussed
yeah.
this. But
Yeah.
do you want to have a go at this one?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think that with anyone who ever asks this question, like, I know, like, I never want to be too harsh on them because I know that
Yeah.
it comes from, like, a place
A
of,
good
like,
place.
pain
Yeah.
and a place
Yeah.
of, like, longing, you know?
Yeah.
And those are honestly, like, things that, like, emotions that you can utilize for, like, good, you know? Like, you can,
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying that everyone's an artist, but you could definitely like make your own form of like expression through these things, right? And if
Yes.
anything, you could like gain some kind of motivation out of it, you know? Like I feel like you have to view emotions as like fuel for the fire, you know?
Oh, for sure.
And aside from that, I just feel like people really need to understand that if somebody leaves your life,
Let
that
them
was
be.
meant to happen for a good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Also, like there's also a thing that like even in like the law of attraction or like even just like praying generally, like being desperate for something is always like a bad vibe. Like it won't ever bring it back.
Yeah.
You
The
have to
more you
be like
want it, like if someone
exactly.
leaves, the more you want them back, the more it's gonna like. I know this sounds really like bad and kind of rude, but the more you run behind it or chase it to come back to you, it's not going to, because it left in the first, like Aalaa said, it left you
Exactly.
for a reason. So let it go, and
Exactly.
if it's meant to come back to you, it will come back to you. You don't have to force it.
Exactly.
Siddhi and I are
Exactly. And
actually going to do
also
a whole podcast on this, because Siddhi and I have a
oh
rant and a half. Yeah. Like, because we get so many people, and I don't mean this in like a mean way. I'm so glad that they, you know, trust us to answer these questions for them. But there's so
no no,
many
I
people,
understand.
yeah, that come in and they're like, so this person's not in my life anymore, but I am actively hoping that he will come back. It's mostly a he. We mostly have
Yeah.
girls on this platform, so
Yeah, yeah.
um, you know, he will come back. I'm manifesting him coming back to me, or I'm praying every day that he comes back to me. And I think that's great that you have so much hope in something that's no more a part of your life. But it's very important to realize why this person's not a part of your life anymore, and just sort of release and see what happens.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
maybe
And
you're
like
supposed to cut cords for a reason.
100%. And like, you know, I do have like a few more thoughts on this. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, like just to be happy like within yourself and like be happy within the universe like generally, you really have to be open to like receiving things, right?
Yes.
So if you're actively putting out energy towards a certain thing, you won't be able to receive other things that
That's
well.
so true.
You know?
That's so true.
There's
Yeah.
also this belief like over here like in Islam generally, which I'm sorry I keep bringing up, you know.
No, please do. We bring up
Yeah.
our religion all the time because we draw parallels from it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So but it's like this thing that there's this saying that if you know you pray for something and the prayer is not answered, right? So there's a few
Yeah.
reasons for it. So either that
Yeah.
it will be answered in like the hereafter, like in the life after this, or or that God has something better for you, right?
Oh, yeah,
Or
for sure.
that God is actually saving you from a disaster by not answering this
That's
prayer.
so true. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Right?
you can ask, like, if anyone here, if anyone's listening to this podcast that has asked me these questions, I have told them this so many times. I'm like, you know what? Like, you know, I think a few weeks ago, someone was telling me that things don't work out with her romantically. Like, things start with someone and then they just end. And I was like, have you ever
Yeah.
considered that maybe it's because they weren't gonna end very well, so you were divinely protected from that?
Exactly.
And, you know, averted a crisis of sort. That's so true.
And then I feel like, secondly, a lot of the girls that are asking you this are probably like in their late teens, right? So they're like 17,
Oh, sure,
18,
yeah.
or like 22.
Maybe late
like,
teens,
you know?
early 20s.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I really feel for that because I feel like those are the ages where you finally like come to terms with yourself and you kind of like realize that, you know, maybe having someone else in your life is like a good thing, you know?
Yeah,
Because
and
before
you
that,
think like during this time, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you were saying.
No, I was just saying, like, I think to add to that, during this time, you kind of feel like you found out who you are. So now you're like,
Yeah.
okay, how is someone else going to play
Fit
a
into
part in
this.
that picture?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
how is that gonna, yeah, that
And
makes sense.
I can completely understand the need for like having companionship because I feel like this is a time where you're kind of growing up and like your friends don't really understand it, your family doesn't really understand it because
Yeah.
this is like a weird stage for you and for them to like adapt to you. So you really want someone
Right.
else that will like be there to like understand you and like understand what you're going through. But at the end of the day, like I feel like you have to know the difference between wanting somebody there and needing somebody there.
And needing someone there.
Like
That's
it's
so
okay
true, yeah.
to want someone, to have companionship, that's completely natural.
Yeah, it's
But
normal, it's very human.
Exactly. But needing it really drives it away. Needing it means that there's something really lacking in your own life.
Very
So I
true,
feel like
yeah.
to attract a partner, what you really need to do is like really feel comfortable and whole in your current life as it is, and then
Yeah.
like then the pieces will just fall together on its own. Like you can't control this. Is like my final thought.
Yeah, I agree with that, and just out of experience I agree with that, because even for me, I think the times where I can now, looking back in hindsight, differentiate the times when I've needed someone versus when I've
Yeah.
just wanted someone, been like,
Yeah.
it would be nice. And that's been a time
Exactly.
where I was like whole within myself, and I was okay with or without. But it's human to want companionship, it's human to want like
Exactly.
someone
Exactly.
that can complement you. But yeah,
100%. Yeah.
that was our first question, long-winded.
Yeah.
But okay, another one is, how do you differentiate between intuition and your own inner monologue? What's to say they're not
That's a
both the
tough
same
one.
thing?
I
think it's
you know what, I'll be
mean,
honest. It's a tough one, honestly. And I feel like especially if you're like reading for yourself, right?
I can never.
Exactly. Me neither, right? Because I feel like then it like really messes with you. But I feel like generally in readings for other people, like then that doesn't happen because it's like most of the people that you read for, you don't have like enough of an opinion about
You're
them
detached.
for have like an inner
Yeah.
to have like an inner dialogue about them, you know?
I also believe that, because for me, I do this a lot where I don't pay attention to it if I don't want to know, like if it's an answer I'm not ready to hear.
Yeah.
I just Okay, I think it's raining outside. If anyone can hear the droplets of water, please excuse them. But if it's I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, if I'm reading for myself and if it's an answer I don't want to hear, I just pretend that it didn't pop up. But somewhere in my subconscious, I know that that's what the reading was trying to tell me. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it's like it's a very thin line. It's like I know what spirit is trying to tell me, but sometimes I just don't want to hear it so bad that I just ignore it. But at the same time, I think I always, like, my gut feeling always just knows what's right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's just about my mind accepting it, or, being like, no, I'm not ready to accept this yet. That sort of a thing.
And sometimes, I think that like you shouldn't go into a tarot reading if you're not fully ready for an answer that you don't expect, right? Like
This is true.
yeah, like I feel like if you're going in for a tarot reading, you should go in with like literally no expectations whatsoever.
Yeah, or an open mind to listen to whatever may come, because tarot is not like easy on you. It's very rude sometimes, and it's just like, this is what you need to know.
100%.
I don't care if it hurts your feelings. Like, it's not going to sugarcoat the message for you. I have to make like a, honest effort to sugarcoat like really harsh messages sometimes, because I'm just like, I can't say that. I don't even know. Like, sometimes people will ask me a future with a relationship, and the cards will be like, is she insane? No, this is not going to work out. Ew. And I'm like, I can't say
You'll
that.
get like 3 swords cards.
Oh yeah, the Three of Swords cards, and like the King of Wands reverse, and just I'm like, listen, I don't want to be the bearer of this news.
Yeah,
but
you're literally getting the devil.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to sugarcoat that. But I think when it comes to differentiating between intuition and own inner monologue, I think it's very, very important for you to listen to that inner monologue. And
100%.
I don't know how to explain this, but you will just know. The inner monologue is meant to be your intuition's voice in some way, and it's going to tell you, like, you're going to know why you're thinking of this, and why these are the thoughts that you're having, and whether this is trying to tell you something, like there's some message below the surface. You just have to spend enough time with yourself, and you will lead to an answer. I know this is a really annoying answer, but I honestly feel like through my experience, that's what I've learned. When I've thought about something enough, and sometimes I obsessively read cards about one situation because I really need to know, but I feel like I'm being biased about it, and I don't know what I'm thinking. Like, all that confusion is trying to tell me something. Most of the time, it's telling me to let go of the situation, but I'm just saying, like, if there is an inner monologue, or there is a voice in your head talking about something, 90% of the time it's your intuition, and 100% of the time it's something leading up to your intuition's message for you. So
Yep.
I feel like they're both the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. But for me personally, if somebody is really struggling with this, like I would advise them to, like, right before a reading, if they're doing it for themselves or other people, like to really cleanse themselves of like any like super super strong emotion, because that will create a bias.
Yeah.
Like you have
that's
to
true. Maybe like meditate before you sit down.
Exactly.
Be in a calmer state of mind before you ask questions.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. This one's fun. So this one says, shielding and protection from psychic attacks. I have many. Do you want to begin?
Like my answers, I feel like we just talked about this with like the spiritual hygiene, which is kind of different. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that you should practice like whatever you believe in, and you should do any kind of protection things that I think they exist in every religion out there, and just practice them. And also at the end of the day, just have a clean space around you.
This is true. I think I want to answer this one. I just see another question next to it, so I want to answer this one and the other one at the same time.
Okay.
For me, psychic attacks are usually what I take on from the reading. And there's another question that says, do you attract bad fortune or troubles of the person you're doing a reading for? And I believe this to be true. I do believe,
really,
because it has happened to me. Yeah, it's happened to me, so I believe that. But I'm also like, my spirit guides don't allow me to do certain readings, because I'm not supposed to attract that sort of energy, because I am a medium at the end of the day. So, for example, if someone has like a property related thing where it's like an unlucky property, I'm not allowed to read for it just in case it has like a demon attached to it, because it's going to transfer
100%.
to me.
Yeah.
And psychic attacks usually for me are when I go to a really negative place. I carry that negativity with me back home, and then I fall sick for like the next 2-3 days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's mostly what psychic attacks are for me. But when it comes to tarot, it definitely is when I'm reading for someone who is in a really anxious, angry, upset, sad place. If it's someone who's dealing with like a generational line of mental illnesses or bad luck or sadness or anxiety, then I'm not allowed to read for them. Like, I always ask permission before I read for someone, and if the cards say no, then I don't do it. But even when it's someone who's like just having a hard time and I read for them, if I haven't protected myself enough, or even when I have, sometimes it's so strong that I take on their pain. So if someone's really upset for some reason or really angry for no reason, and I give them a solution to why they must be feeling that way, for the next 2 days I'm down with that same emotion that they're feeling. Like, I will be angry for no reason for the next 2 days, or I will be crying for no reason for the next 2 days, and they end up feeling better, which is fine. Like, that's how it works. But it's just, you have to then cleanse yourself after that reading a little extra. And I think even when sometimes when spirit is angry or upset with that person for asking a question, like sometimes people will ask questions that are really that kind of are like, you need to trust the universe and not ask so many questions type of stuff. At that time, spirit will get really mad, and then I'll have a headache for 3 days because it'll yell in my head and be like, why is she asking this? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just a messenger. Please. And then I'm down. So I think shielding and protection is just spiritual hygiene.
100%. And I also feel like in a way, like my experience with something similar would be that I think that if you do, like, if you delve into any kind of like occult thing, right? So whether it be tarot, astrology, palmistry, right? And you go into a reading or you do a reading for someone, like as you said, like the energy exchange is like very heavy, you know? And
that's true.
Sometimes, like when it's like a really detailed thing, and sometimes it's just like your connection with the other person, like it really like leaves a toll on you. So
it's
I
true.
think that generally after, like, I'll tell you, like one time I went to a palmist, right? And this is something that I will tell anyone. If you go to a palmist or you go to an astrologist or any of like these people, and they ask you for your mother's name, don't give it. Okay? They because that allows for them to see like right through like your entire ancestry. If someone's really good.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa.
And literally just with your mother's name, right? And that happens like it's so weird that even if you're like completely covered up, like imagine you're wearing like a whole like face cover and everything, right? Like you're wearing a mask. They could genuinely just like see through you at that point. So that's something that I would like advise anyone, that if you go to someone like that, do not tell them your mother's name. And if they're asking you for your mother's name, they're probably doing something shady that they don't need to be doing anyway. Okay?
Oh my god, I had no idea. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
I think that's so weird. You wouldn't think, right? Like something as simple as your mother's name would open a portal to your energy line through your ancestry.
So personally, like
that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. So basically, when I went to this palmist, it was like a completely normal reading, right? And I felt completely fine throughout. He didn't ask me for like my mother's name or anything. He just like told me, you know, like the same things that palmists tell you, you know, how many kids you're gonna have and things of that nature, right? So, but like when I came home, I genuinely felt so drained. Like I felt like I had like made an entire wall of bricks and cement, you know? Like I felt
I know
drained.
what you mean.
So I feel like if I were in that situation right now, what I would have done is that I would have come home and I would have taken a shower and changed my clothes, because your clothes also carry those energies with you.
energy, yeah.
And you
I
really
would
need
sage
to.
my clothes first. Like I would smudge my clothes with like a herb mix first and then put them in the wash.
Yeah,
But yeah, same
100%,
thing. Yeah.
100%. But make sure to, like, if you've had like a very heavy energy exchange, whether you're doing the tarot reading, like definitely like
Or
change
someone
your
else, yeah.
clothes and like change your environment. So
Oh,
like
for
it doesn't
sure.
affect you as strongly.
Yeah, for me as well, like when I had started reading tarot, I, of course, you build this up over the years, and it becomes like a strong
100%.
connection. But when you're building the connection initially and you're reading for a lot, for even one person, if it's like a year ahead reading or something, it's a very
It's very
large
long, yeah.
reading. And initially, when I used to do year ahead readings, I would be done. Like, I would not be able to do anything else for the rest of the day because I
Literally,
was just
literally.
so exhausted from that reading.
Exactly. This is
But I'm
something that
much better
people,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is something that people don't realize, that, like, technically, like your third eye, like chakra, or just like your general, like, third eye, like, it's
Yeah.
honestly like a muscle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, honestly, like, if you like work out, so it will get stronger, but you
Yeah.
can like cause like a, what do you call it? Like, just
Spasm.
like
Yeah.
a burnout,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
You
So, you
have
have
to
to
give
be
it
careful
that
not to do that.
rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you can't lift 60 kgs, don't lift 60
Exactly,
kgs.
exactly.
Build yourself up to that. Yeah, that's a hard lesson that I learned as well. But yeah, that's, I think, just cleanse and don't tell anyone your mother's name, and make sure that
Yeah.
just only take how much ever you can and not overdo it.
Yeah.
Another question that we have. Okay, so I'm gonna like read a few questions together, and because I feel like they're all interconnected in some way, and
Okay.
just sort of give a, an answer in bulk. Uh, so one of them says how to be sure that one is fit to be a reader or start to train for it. Um, I just want to quickly say that anybody can be a reader. It's not
100%.
exclusive to like a certain kind of person. You can literally just buy, even if you don't practice, if you look at tarot cards and then look up their meanings, you've just done a reading, even if you didn't do it intuitively.
Okay, yeah. So basically, personally, I completely agree with your point that, anybody can be
Yeah.
a reader, but, I would like to emphasize that, like, even though tarot is more of like an intuition based thing, you have to be sure enough to, like, have a rationality about it. So I feel like, just like before, like, what I mean by that is that, like, how I said earlier that you have to be like in a neutral space before you do like a heavy reading.
Right.
That's basically like what I'm trying to say here, that, anyone can read, but you have to make sure that you're not letting your emotions affect your reading too much. Like, you have to think from a clear perspective, like when you do get the cards, like, be open to all possibilities.
Yeah. And this is especially true for yourself. Usually, when you're doing readings for
100%.
yourselves and your loved ones, that's when you kind of are biased. Like, even if the cards are telling you something, you're biased to think that it means something else.
100%.
Which kind of brings me to our other two questions. One of them says each tarot card has several meanings. How do we know which one is right? Again, your intuition plays a part in that.
Exactly.
You have to make like for me at this point when I started out, it was really hard for me to understand which meaning it's pertaining to. But the more I practice, the more my intuition would tell me, this is what it means in this situation.
100%.
And at this point, it's like the cards and their actual meanings don't even matter. They're just a
Yeah.
medium for me to like. Sometimes it's like I just look at the pictures and I get a whole thought in my head and I just speak that thought out, and apparently that's exactly what they needed to hear, and it has nothing to
Exactly.
do with the card.
Yeah.
And it's so creepy. Like, I'll get like a random like masculine card, like the king of something or a hierophant or something, and I'll be like, are you like on the outs with like a male figure in your family? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'm like, shit, okay. Like, it just doesn't even matter at one point because your intuition will guide you.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the last question in the same category. Do you need to be a psychic or have great intuition for accurate readings? I think once you start reading, you start building up intuition. Even if
Exactly.
you don't.
I think
if
that's
you're not
like
in
what
touch
we
with
said
it.
about like the muscle thing. I think that applies here as well.
Yeah, for sure. That is true. Yeah, the more you practice, the more it'll get into it.
Also, I feel like for the question that you just like gave before this, the one about like a card having several meanings. I think that
Yeah.
as a beginner, like one of my favorite like just things to do. Not everyone has a pendulum, but you can use like a dice or a coin. I would just
Yeah.
like write
Yeah.
out the meanings of like a card, and I just like use a dice, and then wherever the dice landed, that would be like the
Ooh.
meaning, right? So it's like a fun
Oh,
game.
that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually
It's
your
a cool
intuition,
exercise.
yeah, exactly. Your
Yeah.
intuition like will let you know for sure. But if you're having
Yeah.
trouble like exercising it, like this is a fun game that you
Yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
do to like practice.
Yeah, just roll a dice on it or like hold your like a locket over it and see
Exactly.
where it
Yeah.
goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that. Um, Someone asked shuffling accurate, comma, how to connect. Honestly,
Deep.
you do you wanna answer this first?
I think that what this person is trying to say is that like, do you ever like shuffle correctly? I think that a hundred
Is there an
percent.
incorrect way to shuffle?
Yeah, like I don't know what that means, but I think that I guess what they mean is that like if you shuffle, like are you sure you're getting the right cards? And I think that that's
Yes,
the
always
point of
yes.
it. Yeah, exactly. Like that's your intuition like guiding you towards those cards, right? And if you don't want to shuffle,
Yeah.
there's like a million other ways to do so. You can just like, spread all the cards around you and just pick three,
Pick one.
or like how
Yeah, yeah.
many you feel called to. You don't always have to shuffle.
Yeah. Or you can just talk to it. Like the way
Exactly.
to connect, like she asked how to connect. The way to connect with it is when you're shuffling, you can just talk to your deck and be like, hey, so today we're doing this reading. I hope you're doing well. I love you. This is what I want to ask you. What do you think the answer is? And chances are cards will fall out. And if they don't, you can be like, okay, so I'm going to shuffle you and then keep you down. And I'm going to pick cards off of the top and you're going to tell me the story. Is that okay? And then do that and you'll get the answer. Like, they will never be wrong. You will always get what you want, like get the answer you need. You will connect with it if you just hold it and shuffle with it. Like there's no such thing as shuffling inaccurately, or there's no wrong way to pull cards. I think all
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
like it's always right.
I think that's a
Um,
really important point you just made to talk to it. Like I think that really focuses the energies. So that's something
yeah,
that
because then
everyone
you
should do.
connect with it in a way.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think we'll take one more question because there are so many and I want to answer all of them, but we don't have like it's
Yeah.
already an hour long, I think. Okay, let's just end with this. How about what are some tips for beginners getting into tarot? I think we've covered a lot, but maybe
Yeah.
anything else that comes to mind.
Basically, I think that this is something that I told like Siddhi as well, like when she just randomly asked. I think that definitely look at your card and look at like everything on the card and like
Yeah.
really like try to understand like what it means for you. Right?
For
So for
sure.
example, like in my deck, the chariot card, I think the strength card or the chariot card, can't remember. But it has a lion on it, right? I think it's the strength
Yeah,
card.
the strength card, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you really have to kind of like remember like what that means to you. So whenever I see a lion, like what am I thinking of? Like one thing that I'm thinking of is like just like being animalistic, and then sometimes
Yeah.
pertaining to the person's question, it could just mean that this is like a really passionate connection of sorts, or it
Yeah,
could mean that
yeah.
they're involved with a Leo. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that definitely keeping all the imagery in mind is like super important. And also the thing that we just talked about, just like placing all the meanings of a card and just like figuring it out with like a locket or dice.
Yeah, for sure. I also think another good way for beginners is to not do like in the moment readings or like face to face readings. Like I feel like it helps a lot for people who might be anxious whether or not they saying the right thing, is to really take their time to look at the spread like you said, and it takes some time to like breathe in all the imagery and make sense of what's in front of you and keep all those meanings in mind at the same time. So I feel like if you tell someone, okay, you want a reading for this, just give me a second, and then do it on your own time, do it when you're alone in your own space, and then sort of give them the reading over voice note. Like I still don't do readings face to face. I kind of I do them on my own time and then I submit them to them because I need
Yeah.
to be in my own element. Like I feel
100%.
I'm a really anxious person, so I feel really put on the spot if someone's sitting right in front of me and I have to do a reading for them. It's too much pressure. So I think if
Yeah.
you're a beginner and you wanna like get into this, I think it really helps to be in your element and be in your comfort zone when you're reading for the first few
100%.
times, because then you can take as long as you want to meditate on the cards and look at what they're trying to tell you and draw conclusions.
Yeah. Also, I would say, like, I wouldn't say this usually, but I personally am not comfortable with anyone else touching my deck because I feel like that really
Yeah.
like their energy infiltrates the
I don't
deck,
know
right?
how, yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like I would have to do so much cleansing.
Exactly. But I feel like if you're a beginner and you're really struggling with like reading for someone else, you could definitely ask them to like pick a card from the deck. Like don't let them shuffle,
Yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
let them pick a card. That will help.
Yeah. Let them point to one.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe. I actually wanted to try that. I was gonna ask like my family members to do that with me, where I
Yeah.
let them touch the deck and see how that works, because I've never let anyone, I don't even like it when people like touch stuff on my altar.
100%, yeah,
Like
I
even
know.
if it's my own parents, like if they like pick up a crystal on my altar, I'm like,
I know.
you sure you want to do that? Like, please put it down. Like, I love you, but please don't touch. I don't know why. It's really weird. But I think I just prefer it to be my energy purely, I guess, like you said.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we covered a lot, and honestly, the conclusion to this is to let your intuition drive you to do whatever you feel is right, and to be spiritually hygienic and physically hygienic to
Yeah.
make sure that you don't attract anything lower vibrational, and just do it. Just buy a deck and you will know what to do. Just begin somewhere. Don't wait for anything. Just buy a deck, touch it, and you'll know exactly how to treat it and how to treat your surroundings when you have it. I think that's my ending notes.
100%, I agree with that.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think that the first question like really hit me. I just like really want everyone to know that you don't need any other person to survive. You especially don't need a man.
Yes.
And if you feel like
Oh,
you really
please,
need
yes.
him, then he's probably making you feel that way, and that's not really a good sign either.
Yeah.
So I just
For
feel
sure.
that definitely just like be happy in yourself. Everyone's enough on their own. You just need to like realize that everything that you ever
You don't-
need, you
yeah.
have within yourself.
Yeah, there's never going to come a point where you cannot live with someone unless that someone is yourself.
Exactly.
No matter
Exactly.
who it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
You might have a very strong connection with people, and that's very 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 valid, but the second you feel like you cannot physically live without someone, that means there is a problem that you need to kind
Exactly.
of
Like you
you
can
need
like
to-
love them that much, but that
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
love, like you have to see like that builds up. So like how long have you even been together? Like you're the person that you've been with for 6 months and you're feeling that about them. That's the weird part. If you've been with them for 10
Yeah.
years, like I'd understand. Like your whole lives are intertwined.
Yeah, but I also think that like it's still not healthy to be so
No,
attached to
100%.
someone that
100%.
yeah. And I'm not just talking about relationships, like even like your child or your
Yeah.
mom, like
100%,
I know
yeah.
that you would, since you've lived with your child or your mom their entire lives or your entire life, you'd not want to be apart from them, but you should be able to kind of survive after you've reached a point. You should be
100%.
able to let them be and do their own thing
Yeah.
while you do your own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually a really good point. And tune in next week if you want to hear a whole podcast about not taking back your ex and why you shouldn't hold on to people who have already left or need them back. If you want, Aalaa, you can join us next week as well. And you can give your 2 cents on this as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely like want to pop in for like a bit.
Oh, for sure. We'll have you pop in for at least a bit, if not the whole podcast,
Yeah.
so you can give your 2 cents in as well. But it was so cool having you on, and it was so nice talking to someone who does this and comes with like her own set of knowledge about it. I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know before. So this really helps.
And vice
I hope you
versa.
enjoy.
Honestly, it was super nice meeting you guys, by the way. Like, I've genuinely never even talked to her before. Like, this is our first time talking. Like,
This is literally, we just like 2 seconds ago, like 5 minutes before we started the podcast, we like saw each other for the first time and we're like, hey.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
let's
think
do
that
this.
I genuinely do feel like, you know, like I've known you for like so long. Like, I feel so comfortable.
Same.
But
yeah, it doesn't feel like this is new or anything, even though we've never
Exactly.
spoken before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. And we definitely like to have you back, like for whatever ones you want to be on, the next one, the one after that.
100%.
It's been fun.
That's so sweet of you. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for being on, and I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that everyone listening enjoyed. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and several other platforms, Anchor. Follow us on Taroni on Instagram, TAROTNI. That's where all the main stuff happens, and you can keep up with everything there. Book a reading. I will leave all the links below. I will see you guys next time, and hopefully Aalaa will see us next week as well, and Siddhi will be back next week too. So thank you for listening. Bye bye.